Thank you, everyone. I'll start the meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone present to this meeting at the Civic Centre and to those observing the meeting on Microsoft Teams. The fire alarm procedure, there are no drills expected this evening, so in the event of an alarm sounding, please quickly make your way out of the building. There are 3 exits from this room, which members can use to vacate the premises. Please switch mobile phones onto silent or switch them off and take any calls outside the meeting room. Do not leave any possessions unaccompanied or report any unaccompanied possessions. Remember to take any possessions with you when the meeting is concluded or as you leave the meeting. This meeting may be subject to filming or audio recording by others in accordance with the Council's filming protocol. Anyone who remains in the meeting following this announcement will have deemed to have consented to allow their image to be recorded and broadcast. We don't have any minutes of the last meeting, but I've got a short statement to read out because following some confusion at the last meeting of this committee regarding the presentation of photos, I'd like to clarify the position to the committee. Speakers, both public and councillors, are not permitted to present photographs or other visual aids to the committee as part of their presentation. I wanted to clarify this to the committee so that we're clear on the procedures going forward and to apologise for not fully enforcing that procedure at the last meeting. Thank you. I'll move on to the agenda proper and item 1, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
Chair, we have apologies from Councillors Tempest Mitchell and Councillor Callaghan. Councillor Ellis will substitute for Councillor Callaghan and Councillor Cole will substitute for Councillor Tempest Mitchell.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? Councillor Swinscoe.
Agenda item 7, stations.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Item 3 is in my ward. I have made representations, so I would withdraw my presence from that item.
Thank you. Any other declarations of interest? No? Thank you. Move on to item 3 then. It's planning application reference 2025-0419 COU, change of use of a detached summer house shed, use class C3 to a dog grooming salon, use class sui generis at 1 Eden Low, Mansfield Woodhouse. Could I invite the officer to give a report?
Thank you, Chair. I have 3 updated items to report. Further comments from Councillor Ellis has been received and summarised as follows. She believes that a business use is unsuitable at the end of the residential cul-de-sac, notes that the original planning permission intended the estate to remain open plan and residential. She refers to a deed of covenant prohibiting business use, which original owners are expected to be upheld, and suggests restricting hours to Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. only, with no weekend operation. I've also received a response from the applicant to the committee report and comments from Councillor Ellis that are stated in the report, which is summarised as follows. In terms of the response on the committee report, the applicant states that they have ownership of the entrance and part of the shared drive, and notes a boundary with number 9, which uses its own access and not the shared drive. And additional parking would be accessed from their existing driveway. Response to Councillor Ellis' comments on the report, the applicant denies any removal of a fire hydrant, noting that hydrants are in public footways and removal would be illegal. The fence has been in place for over 4 years with no prior objections or enforcement, and therefore beyond enforcement period. And the cited road accident was due to a drunk driver and unrelated to the proposal. I've also received latest neighbor objections, which are summarized as follows. They have concerns with the loss of privacy from clients and their dogs accessing the site, increase in traffic and parking, and they stated that the proposed parking spaces are not practical due to lack of drop curbs and existing vehicles. Raised concerns to risk of vehicles parking on the private cul-de-sac and obstructing access, noise concerns from early and late operating hours, drainage concerns due to previous blockage and the system designed for residential use only, and that there are no response from Severn Trent, breach of covenant prohibiting business use. They doubt that managing 5 clients per day within proposed hours, especially if clients bring multiple dogs. And they have fire safety concerns over the use of non-fire retardant materials and electrical grooming equipment in the summer house. In terms of the application itself, the application site relates to number 1 Eden Low, a detached bungalow located on a corner plot at the end of a residential cul-de-sac. The site is bounded by the junction of Eden Low and New Mill Lane to the west and a shared private drive to the east. The proposal seeks permission for the change of use of an existing summer house in the rear garden to operate as a dog grooming salon. The dog grooming services offered would be on a 1-to-1 appointment basis only, with no more than 1 number of customer dogs on site at the same time. There will be a 30-minute space between customer visits to allow clean down. The applicant has proposed the hours of operation to be 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday and Thursday, and 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Saturday. The business will not operate on Sundays and bank holidays. These operation hours has been reviewed by officers and will be discussed later. The site lies within a residential area of Mansfield Woodhouse. While there are no specific policies preventing small-scale business uses within residential properties, each case must be assessed on its own merits. Operating small, low-intensity business from home is not uncommon and can be acceptable in principle, subject to the assessment of residential amenity, character and appearance of the area, and highway safety. In terms of residential amenity impacts, public objections received have highlighted concerns over noise from dogs, wastewater disposal, blocked sewage, and extended operation hours. The applicant has installed acoustic insulation to the walls and roof of the summer house and replaced the doors and windows with more sound-resistant materials. The dog dryers are also described as low decibel models, and the applicant intends to keep the windows and doors closed during use. Environmental Health has also noted that the summer house is positioned at the far end of the garden, furthest from the neighboring properties, and sit on a plot that is not directly adjacent to any other dwellings. They consider that the dominant background noise in the area comes from New Mill Lane, which will mask much of the activity noise from the salon. On this basis, Environmental Health considered that the proposed operation hours are reasonable and did not consider it necessary to require a formal noise assessment. However, given the nature of this business and the fact that the building is within a residential area, officers were concerned about the length of the hours and the impact they could have on residential amenity. Accordingly, officers considered that hours from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. on Saturday to be more reasonable. This has been recommended in the conditions. Additional conditions has also been recommended to restrict the business to have no more than 5 number of appointments per single day, 1 customer dog on site at any one time, and a minimum of 30-minute interval between appointments. On this basis, it is considered that a temporary permission for 12 months would be appropriate to ascertain if unacceptable noise issues arise during this 12-month period. On matters on drainage, Severn Trent was consulted and did not have any comments to make. They did not put in any comments. The applicant confirms that the fur and debris will be filtered before wastewater enters the main drain, and the site also has a very low chance of surface water flooding. In terms of overlooking, overshadow, and overbearing impacts, the openings to the summer house do not face towards any neighboring properties and are not visible from the street. A new front drive with gravel to replace the existing soft landscape is also proposed. Given the nature of the proposed development, it is considered that it would not have an adverse impact on overlooking, overshadowing, and overbearing to the neighbors. Concerns have been raised about people walking past existing houses. However, it is considered that given the expected number of appointments per day, this would not warrant refusal of permission. In terms of visual amenity impacts, the summer house itself was built under permitted development rights, and the proposed use would only involve minor alterations to the existing opening. The structure is well screened by existing boundary fence and has no visual impact on the wider street scene. Concerns about the height and alignment of the boundary fence has been raised, and they have been passed on to the enforcement officer for investigation, but this is outside the scope of this application. In terms of highway safety, public objections received have highlighted concerns to parking, blocked drives, lack of drop curb, and highway safety in relation to the boundary fence of the site. The proposal currently benefits from 2 off-street parking spaces. The Highway Authority acknowledges that occasional on-street parking may occur, but concludes this will not pose a highway safety problem subject to the conditions recommended to restrict the business to be appointment-based only, maintain a 30-minute gap between appointments, a logbook to be retained, and for the business to be solely run by the applicant, as discussed previously. The applicant has offered to provide 2 additional parking spaces during the course of the application, but given the absence of an objection from Highway Authority and conditions recommended, officers considered that this is unnecessary. Concerns to visibility at Eden Low and New Mill Lane Junction has been passed on to Highway Authority and has been inspected by the highway inspector, who has no concerns to the existing boundary fence, although it should be stressed that this does not form part of this decision as previously explained. Public objections have also been received, raising concerns to increase noise and the impact this may have on wildlife using tree on the site. The ecologist has been consulted and raised no objections. Concerns were raised about the boundary fence being moved or exceeding the plot line. Following a site visit, officers and Highway Authority confirmed that the fence is on the original alignment and within the property boundary. Nonetheless, the scope of this application only relates to the change of use of the existing summer house to a dog grooming salon, and the boundary fence in concern does not form part of the proposed development as previously stated. Covenants restricting business use are also private matters and are not planning considerations. Overall, the proposed dog grooming use within the existing summer house is considered acceptable, subject to the recommended conditions controlling hours and number of dogs and appointments. It is therefore recommended that temporary planning permission is granted for a period of 12 months.
Thank you for your report. I've got no public speakers or councillors listed. So do members have any questions of the officers? Councillor Jackson?
Thank you, Chair. I was going to ask about the legality of the deed of covenant, but you've covered that right at the end of your presentation. My only question then is what happens at the end of the 12-month period? Should permission be granted today, does it have to then come back to the planning committee for further permission?
Thank you, Councillor. I'll just jump in there. So the temporary consent is limited, so it's limited by the condition. So at the end of the 12 months, the applicant would have to, if they wanted to continue the business use, they'd have to reapply. And so I guess it would depend on the specific scheme of delegation. It would depend on the responses received. But so I wouldn't want to predetermine an application, but the principle would be subject to the same process as this has. Thanks.
Just on the point of covenants, I'll bring Paul in to actually explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So restrictive covenants could be something like a prohibition on the owner using their premises for commercial purposes, such as a dog grooming business. That is not relevant as such to planning. That is a covenant between the purchaser and the vendor. It's a private arrangement that the person entitled to the covenant, that would usually be the vendor, is entitled to enforce against the existing owner. The purpose of a covenant like that is usually to protect the amenity of residents in the area. That principle itself is covered by planning and has been assessed in the report as being acceptable.
Do you have any other questions of the officer? No? In that case, could I seek a proposer? Councillor Swinscoe, seconder. Councillor Hammersley. Moving to debate. Anybody want to comment? No? So I'd like to move to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation, please show. Any abstentions? Any against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. So. Planning application reference 2025-0419, change of use of a detached summer house shed, use class C3 to a dog grooming salon, use class generous, 1 Eden Low, Mansfield Woodhouse, has been granted with conditions. Move on to item 4, which is planning application reference 2025-0217, change of use. It's a change of use from a 6-person house of multiple occupancy, use class C4, to an 8-person house of in multiple occupation, sui generis. It's Bridgeway 32 Hermitage Lane, Mansfield. And I'll invite the officer to make a report, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, councillors. Just a quick update. The slides, the cover of the slides and the update sheet shows that the application number reads as 2025-0217-COU. The application reference is actually 2024-0217-COU. Okay, so this is a 2-storey detached dwelling situated on the western side of Hermitage Lane, where you have residential properties that lie to the north, west and east of the site, with a railway bridge to the south, and also further south you have commercial operations. There's currently off-street parking available for 2 vehicles and a bus stop located directly outside of the property. Now, a certificate of proposed lawful use was issued earlier this year, the change of use of the dwelling to form a 6-person HMO, and the applicant has confirmed that this use has been implemented. In relation to this application seeks permission to increase the number of bedrooms in the existing HMO to accommodate up to 8 persons. So specifically, it's going from 6 to an 8-person HMO. So what they're looking to do is convert the existing ground floor lounge to form 2 additional bedrooms. All of the bedrooms will have ensuite bathing facilities, and there is a large shared kitchen that's being retained, kitchen and diner that's being retained for communal use, and the proposal contains no external changes. What's included in this application as well is for the existing vehicular access and the drop curb on Hermitage Lane to be extended to improve the access and to provide off-street car parking in front of the property for a further 2 car parking spaces to be used by the occupiers, the HMO, and the applicant has also agreed to relocate the bus stop. There's been 14 objections raised on the grounds of highway safety, lack of parking, overcrowding, the loss of a family-sized dwelling, and the strain on the local infrastructure and amenity. Matters have been addressed within the committee report, but for clarity, the application has been assessed on the basis that there's an increase in 2 further rooms. The property is currently operating as a 6-person HMO, as mentioned earlier, and therefore it needs to be established if an additional 2 people cause material harm to the living conditions of nearby residents. HMOs do have a role to play in the provision of different housing types, and therefore it is considered that they do contribute to providing a mixed and balanced community in accordance with H7 of the local plan. The 2 additional bedrooms, number 7 and number 8, will have a floor area of 9.9 square meters and 11 square meters, which is of an adequate internal area for 1 occupier. As such, the proposal would not significantly or adversely impact on the amenity enjoyed by the occupiers of adjacent properties. The principle of development in that case for a house in multiple occupation is acceptable. A condition is imposed to restrict the total level of occupancy to no more than 8 people at the address. The existing vehicular access and proposed drop curb on Hermitage Lane, as mentioned earlier, will be extended to improve access to the existing hard surface driveway in front of the property. This area would be laid out to provide 4 parking spaces for use by the occupiers. Car ownership levels associated with the proposed change of use would be expected to be relatively low and not materially different to the existing 6-person HMO. The higher authority confirms that they'd have no objections to the planning application, subject to planning conditions in relation to limiting the number of people to no more than 8, the completion of the driveway, hard surfacing, and the virgin crossing to serve the driveway to be completed prior to the occupation of bedroom 7 and 8, and no development hereby shall be permitted until the parking spaces have been carried out, demarcated. And also there's a condition as well in terms of providing highways with details of the cycle storage on site. So on balance, given the location of the site and the provisions of cycle storage and the scale of the proposal be limited to no more than 8 occupiers, it is considered that the parking provision is acceptable, and the refusal in this regard would not be justifiable in this instance. And as such, the proposal would accord with policies IN9 and IN10 of the Mansfield local plan. So the recommendation is to approve the application subject to conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your report. Again, I've got no speakers listed, public or council. Do members have any questions of the officer? Councillor Moxham.
Thank you. Can you just clarify they're going to extend what we can see on screen now, the parking spaces. Are they going to take the drop curb further up the road as well then?
Oh, yes, that's a good picture. So what they're going to do is extend the drop curb further up the road, relocate the bus stop further up. That's subject to working with Nottinghamshire Highways in terms of identifying a suitable location for the relocation. And also, do you see the fence at the front? They're looking to remove that. And also the fence to the side, the lower part of it, they're going to remove that as well to improve visibility.
Members have any further questions? Councillor Jackson.
Yeah, again, it's about the parking and noting the objections raised by neighbours. Do we have any evidence of issues with parking with the HMO in its current status? So have there been any accidents related to it? Do we have any information about whether the parking is currently causing a problem? That makes sense.
It does make sense, thank you. We've not been informed of any accidents or any near misses. Highways haven't raised any concerns directly with myself. Thank you.
The members have any further questions? Councillor Ellis.
See on the picture that you've got the bus stop that is proposed to be moved. Isn't that a lamppost that's behind it? And I was wondering what's the purpose of moving the bus stop when you've still got a lamppost in front of your driveway?
Thank you for raising that. Yes, there is a lamppost behind the bus stop. Dan, could you help me out with this one?
Thank you, Councillor. I think Councillor Wetton actually had a good point where it's to do with yeah, in itself there is a lamppost there, but I think it's the part of the main thing. Obviously, it's not been explicitly clarified, but I think as a whole, I think it would be to move the buses, and because I guess if you've got buses pulling in front and pulling away, that would moving the pole just slightly further up. Yeah, because the lamppost doesn't appear to be causing sort of a direct obstruction, but if you've got buses in the way, then you could have it effectively removes private vehicles coming into conflict with buses stopping to pick and drop off passengers. That would be the most likely explanation.
Any further questions? Don't see any. Could I have a proposer for the recommendations? Councillor Stevenson and Councillor Hammersley. We're in debate mode. Would anyone want to make a comment? Councillor Answer.
Thank you, Chairman. I feel it's difficult to support this on the basis Hermitage Lane is a very busy lane. A lot of traffic goes up and down there. And as it says in the report, car parking from residents is a dangerous position. We're saying 4 car parks spaces on site, but 8 people could mean there could be 10 cars there. And that would create a bottleneck very, very close to the bridge. I'm totally against an HMO in this area, particularly as it's a mainly owner area with people, families and residents around that area. And you know, we shouldn't be encouraging a situation where HMOs are in the middle of normal living accommodation. It's not normal living, 8 people in a house. I can't support it, and I'll be voting against it.
You, Councillor Answer. Any other comments? Councillor Swinscoe.
It's just a response to Councillor Answer's comment. I'm not quite sure what he means why it's against putting HMOs in these areas of because house there's already 6 people there, so it's already an HMO.
councillors wishing to comment? I'll just make a small comment myself. There is permission for this HMO for 6 people already, and it's only extending it to 8, which the recommendation is to approve. Got no issue with that, but the fact that it's a 6-person HMO, they should have applied for a license after the 5th person occupied the house, and up to now they haven't. So I think Mansfield District Council's private sector housing licensing team should be chasing that up and making sure they apply for a license. Anyone else make any comment? Nope. And we move to the vote then, please. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Any abstentions? And any against? Thank you. So, planning application reference 2025-0217, change of use from a 6-person house of multiple occupancy, use class C4, to an 8-person house in multiple occupancy, sui generis. Bridgeway 32 Hermitage Lane, Mansfield, has been approved 9-1. Oh, why it's written wrong. We'll just correct that. Apologies. There's actually reference 2024, although it's written down wrong on my form. 0217 COU. I won't read the rest of it out because that was correct. Has been granted planning permission with conditions. Move on to item 5, which is planning application reference 2024-0482 full. Proposed 2-storey new building development for 6th form students, providing teaching, library and cafe facilities with associated hard and soft landscaping, including temporary access for the construction period at Manor Academy, Parkwell Road, Mansfield Woodhouse. Could I invite the officer to make the report, please?
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Committee. This application before you is a full application for a new 2-storey 6th form building at Manor Academy in Mansfield. The officer recommendation is detailed on page 33 of your reporter's pack, is to grant planning permission subject to the conditions listed. Before I start, Chair, I'd just like to run through a couple of committee updates. First, the agenda is highlighted that the agent has highlighted that the condition 8 in relation to landscaping within your published report doesn't include the agreed wording. It had been previously agreed that conditions should be worded to allow for the removal of the hardcourt before the final landscape details are approved. Therefore, recommended that condition 8 be updated to read that no above ground development shall commence before the landscaping details are provided. So allow them to remove the hardcourt area, should planning permission be granted for submitting the landscape details. This condition is considered acceptable to officers. Second point, Chair, is in relation to a point the legal officers highlighted in the report that relates to paragraph 103 of the NPPF. It's highlighted by Sport England and elsewhere in the report. Following a recent update to the NPPF, the correct paragraph number is actually paragraph 104. Importantly, the wording of the policies has not changed. Moving on to the site and its context. Application site is 0.35 hectare parcel of land, underutilised land within existing school grounds. As you can see from the photograph, it photographs that currently comprises of a hard surface basketball court and amenity grassed area of low ecology value. The site is surrounded by the main school campus to the north and east. To the west is Park Hall Road, and to the south is Access Road to the recently constructed Yeoman Park Academy. On sensitive neighbours are residential properties to the south and west on Park Hall Road. Only the site's not within the conservation area. It's located within flood zone 1, which is the lowest level of flood risk. Key constraint is a public sewer which crosses the northern part of the site, hence why the proposals on the southern part, and development has been developed to respect the necessary easements for this pipeline. In terms of what's proposed, it's for a contemporary two-storey building to provide a dedicated facility for the Academy's sixth form students. The applicant has stated this investment is needed to improve the quality of the campus, which they feel is outdated, in order to increase student satisfaction and retention. The building would provide a modern learning environment to include a double-storey height cafe, 2 libraries, classrooms and meeting rooms. It would be located on the site of the unused basketball court. This is an important consideration, so it would be removed. Design of high quality using buff brick on the ground floor to reflect existing school and timber cladding on the first floor to provide a lighter appearance. As you can see from the proposed elevations, the layout has been specifically designed to minimise the impact on nearby residents with a reduced amount of glazing to the south and west. In terms of the planning considerations, central issue for members to consider is a statutory objection from Sport England, which has been maintained through the application process. Sport England objects on the grounds that the proposal would result in a loss of a playing field, as they consider it, which is the basketball court, and that the application has not, in their view, provided sufficient evidence to prove the facility is surplus to requirements and does not meet one of their exceptions in their national policy. Because of this statutory objection, should the committee be minded to approve the application, it must therefore be referred to the Secretary of State for final approval, Chair. However, officers take a different view based on evidence submitted. Firstly, the applicant has provided a statement confirming the basketball court has not been used by the school for approximately 20 years, ever since their modern indoor sports centre was completed. They state they have superior alternative facilities to meet the curriculum needs. Secondly, Chair, as part of their own assessment, Sport England consulted with Basketball England, national governing body for the sport. Their response confirmed that they were not aware of any community use of the court and highlighted that another 3-court facility exists nearby, which is likely to meet local demand. Based on this evidence, officers are satisfied that the court is genuinely surplus to the requirements of both the school and the community. In this specific case, the significant public benefits of providing much needed, high quality education provision are considered to clearly outweigh the loss of the long-term redundant and unused sports court. Turning to other matters, Chair, raised during the consultation, in terms of residential amenity, there were 2 comments received. One objection was from a local resident concerning traffic, construction noise, and a loss of light and privacy. The applicant submitted a noise and air quality assessment, which both conclude that impacts would not be significant, subject to mitigation, which is be secured through the conditions highlighted in the report. The environmental health team has reviewed these and raised no objections. Currently, the building would be sited over 30 metres from the neighbouring property that's objecting to the application, and the design specifically reduces the number of windows on these facing elevations. The impact therefore is considered to be acceptable, and the proposed separation between the two would meet our policy requirements. In respect of highway, the residents' concern about construction traffic were initially shared by the Highway Authority, who placed a holding objection on the application. In response, the applicant submitted a detailed traffic management plan, including measures for a separate construction access, on-site parking for workers, and control on delivery times. Having reviewed this, the Highway Authority has firmly withdrawn its objection and is now satisfied that the construction phase can be managed safely, subject to conditions. In terms of ecology, the site is of low value. Our ecologist agrees that the baseline value of the site is 0.42 units, and the landscaping scheme includes rain garden, native planting, etc. That would deliver a very significant biodiversity gain of 118%, massively exceeding the 10% legal requirement. Our ecologists have no objections to the proposal. So in conclusion, Chair, the members, you're asked to weigh the planning issues. On one hand, there is statutory objection from Sport England regarding the loss of the playing field. On the other hand, there is substantial evidence before you that this specific facility has been redundant for 2 decades and is surplus to all requirements. The proposal would deliver a significant public benefit by providing a much needed high-quality education facility to support the long-term future of the Academy. All other technical matters relating to amenity, highways, ecology have all been satisfactorily addressed and are supported by expert consultees. In summary, officers consider that a significant public benefit of the new education facility as proposed clearly and demonstrably outweighs the loss of redundant court. Chair, the officer recommendations therefore to grant planning permission subject to the amended conditions detailed in your report and refer the matter to the Secretary of State. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Again, I've got no speakers listed. So do members have any questions of the officer? Councillor Moxham.
Perhaps more of a technical question, but I'm a bit confused as to where the lines are between what has to come to a district council planning, has to go to the county council planning. I just assumed that this would be a county council matter. Obviously wrong.
The reason this one's come to planning committee is because it's an academy and it's not a county council school.
Will answer. Councillor Ellis.
Can I just ask, because being a Woodhouse councillor, there's been a lot of problems with the traffic on Parkall Road with the building of Yeoman Park. Who's going to monitor that everybody does use where they're supposed to use and the construction workers don't park on Park?
Chair, there's a requirement for a construction management plan that's been submitted that would have to be appropriately adhered to. Part of that requirement is, a responsible person for the construction. Notwithstanding that, of course, there's the enforcement issue. Should residents feel aggrieved if anything that's going on that shouldn't be, well, there is a requirement for a very detailed construction management plan, which would set out times for deliveries, wheel washing, that particular construction access, etc.
Quite extensively in the conditions. Further questions? As indicated, could I have a proposer for the application? Councillor Hammersley, seconded Councillor Cole. In debate mode, any comments? Councillor Coxhead.
I think looking at the development and the non-use of the piece of land that is going on within the educational environment, me personally working within a very large educational setting in Ashfield over the years and seeing a progression of a new post-16 areas coming, I take it that the post-16 block is going to be sort of for the students that's coming through the school from the local encatchment area, and I take it there is it's very much that, and with what is needed today within educational settings. I'll be fully supporting this.
Anyone else wishing to make comment? We move to the vote then, please. A show of hands. All those in favour, please show. Any abstentions? Any against? Thank you. That's a unanimous decision. So, planning application reference 2024-0482 full. Proposed two-storey new building development for sixth form students, providing teaching, library, cafe facilities with associated hard and soft landscaping, including temporary access for the construction period. Manor Academy, Parkhall Road, Mansfield Woodhouse, has been granted, subject to the following. Planning permission be granted subject to the referral of the proposal and recommendations to the National Planning Casework Unit on behalf of the Secretary of State. And should the Secretary of State not call in the application, the delegated authority is given to the planning manager or the development team leader to issue the permission subject to the conditions attached. Thank you. I shall move on to agenda item 6, which is planning application reference 2023-0271, outline planning application including access for residential development of up to 134 number dwellings, including the demolition of number 223A Abbott Road, Mansfield Woodhouse, land rear of 223A Abbott Road, Mansfield. Could I invite the officer to make a report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is an application by Nottinghamshire County Council in accordance with local plan policy H1F for the redevelopment for residential for the former playing fields to what is now the Flying High Academy on Town Road Drive. I have a couple of updates for you. Since issuing the report, we have had 3 letters of objection which have been withdrawn from residents. Second update is relating to the public transport bus stop infrastructure, which in the report is an old figure. The current figure being sought by the county is £17,300, which alters the total financial contributions to 1,262,637.99. Going back to the report, I have a detailed report in front of you. The application is outline with access only to be determined. There is an indicative site plan which we have had comments from local residents on. This is indicative, it doesn't form part of the application, but it is intended to indicate, to confirm that 134 dwellings can be accommodated on the site. Site access is, for those of you who were at for the Pennamont Farm location, this site is opposite Pennamont Lane, accessed by a public right of way, Hallbarn Lane, and the dwelling alongside it, 223A Abbott Road. Proposal is to use the lane and the dwelling to provide an access road into the site. If you bring up the Google map, the aerial map, you'll see it doesn't sit directly onto Abbott Road. It's to be accessed. It sits behind bungalows in Abbott Lee. It's straddled on one side by the lane, the right of way. To the south is Town Road, Town Road Drive, and to the east it's the Flying High Academy. So it's bounded on all sides. It's currently overgrown and has been unused as playing fields for some number of years. Site boundary has hedging, tree planting. Otherwise, it's a grass site across the limit. Proposed junction, as I said, is to the side of Barnhall Lane, and this requires some improvement to Abbott Road, so a ghost right turn lane will be included. House is required to be demolished to widen the access. There's a little uncertainty at the moment about whether the right of way will be integrated into the new access road, or whether it will sit alongside it. That's a matter to be dealt with. Reserve matters. In association, we have shed footway and cycleway, which is provided on the other side of the road, so the Pennant Hall development side. Pedestrian crossing will allow access from Barnhall Lane, so the this side to the Pennant Lane on the other side, and also that will provide access to the new cycleway footway be coming forward in Pennant Lane development. Local plan policy requires a number of elements. It requires cycle walking routes connecting Hall Barn Lane to adjacent open space. Additionally, the proposal is including additional cycleway footway connections to Town Road Drive, Somersault Street. Those are achieved via a financial contribution. Sports England had originally objected to this application, the loss of the playing fields. They have subsequently altered their position to accept that these have been long redundant playing fields, and as a consequence, though they haven't fully withdrawn their objection, their view it doesn't need a referral to Secretary of State application. What we do have, though, is a requirement under the policy for a contribution or open space improvements to the Abbott Road playing fields. That's included under the policy, and those financial contributions will be put with Brickham Lane contribution you dealt with earlier on in the year to improve the pitches and changing facilities. That's calculated on £1,100 per dwelling, and we're estimating on 134 dwellings if all come forward. That will give us a contribution of 147,400 towards those improvements. Other contributions which have been agreed are 10% affordable housing, secondary education and SEND contributions, bus stop improvements on Collingham Road, financial contribution to GP primary care services via the Nottingham and Nottinghamshire Integrated Care Board. Policy also requires archaeology to be assessed. The condition is included within the recommended conditions. The final element of the policy requires financial contributions to strategic junction improvements. Chesterfield Road, Debdale Lane being specifically referenced. That contribution is calculated as 200,732. The application predates BNG, but policy NE2 and SPD biodiversity net gain requires biodiversity enhancement to be achieved. These can be achieved to an extent on the site, but not fully, so they will be achieving 10% improvement. Remainder will be achieved through off-site purchases, and that's an effective position. In terms of objections, these are a material consideration. We have had a substantial amount of objections to the application. 18 objection letters written on a bespoke basis. We have one positive supporting letter, 81 generic is already catered for residential development that's established within the plan. We have a full suite of contributions to the site. County Council have agreed across the range that includes 10% housing that meets fully with our SPD obligations, meets all the county obligation requirements as well. Some of the concerns from local residents relate to be the further detailing when we get to the if you approve this outline. Those are dealt with as far as we can within the recommended conditions. So one of the conditions, condition 19, which sets parameters. One of the things that we will set is a maximum dwelling. There is some concern from properties in Abbott Lee, which are all bungalows, about development close to their boundary. Although at this stage we can't insist on parts of the site being bungalow. Otherwise, that's a matter for the developer to negotiate with us at the matters stage. I've put an informative on. That informative makes it very clear that we are looking for low height dwellings. Boundary. Recommendation is a route other than the bus stop infrastructure. Recommendation is to approve is to grant consent outlined.
Thank you for your report. Again, I've got no listed speakers on this application. Members have any questions of the officer? Councillor Jackson.
So just, sorry, I don't understand what a ghost right turn is. Could somebody just explain that to me, please? Because I can't picture what that looks like. Thank you.
Yes, Chair. If you look, thank you for blowing that up. If you could go a little bit further. So it's not a ghost lane isn't a specific lane where the road divides into three elements. It's a marking. Then so the road as you'll see, the access point widens out. That allows, so what that does is that allows traffic to move slightly over, then do that, take that junction turn. There is, if you look at the photographs site, you'll see that there are just at that point the pavement widens out considerably. Slip back one if you can. There we go. And if you zoom in on that, you'll see that we have a much wider strip of pavement to the point where the junction is going. So we have County Council, County Highway Authority have a fair amount of scope here, not trying to squeeze the traffic at this point. What we have included is a cycleway, footway, pedestrian refuge. So if you look to the left of the lane at the moment, there will be a pedestrian crossing, tactile one. That's in addition to the other crossings that we've achieved from Penrith Park.
Any further questions? Councillor Cox said.
Yeah, you said that on this development, you are looking, or they're indicating that there's going to be a 10% affordable housing within that development. And I mean, obviously, a quick calculation that says there will be at least 14 houses that's affordable. Is that?
Yes, the council they will be SPD compliant in terms of the how that then divides in terms of rental versus shared ownership at this stage, but we would.
Any further questions? On the matter of 106 monies, and it's quite a accurate figure granted in full by the county council. I've just got one question really. How we got the figure to be £1,261,737.99, because the waste management is 8,158.99, but the monitoring fee for the travel plan says figure to be confirmed. So is there further monies to be added to that total? It'd be would it have been better to put an estimated figure in why they got the 99p?
Yes, Chair. Thank you for raising that. Yes, we haven't had the figure for that from the county council. They always impose a charge because there is that accrues work from their point of view, monitoring and just settling, getting the travel plan in place in the first place. So yes, that figure will slightly increase as we work through the detailing on the section 106.
Any further questions? No. Could I have a proposer for this application, please? Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Cole, seconding. Anyone wishing to make a comment? Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you, Chair. It feels like a very finely balanced application for me, this one. I've got some concerns, particularly the significant number of objections received, and the overview, although it's not decided at this stage that they've provided, raises a number of concerns, particularly the bungalows. But as Councillor Coxhead pointed out, essentially 10% affordable housing on there. So it is certainly finely balanced. But at this stage, I think, given that it is outline planning permission, I'm willing to look at accepting and going with the recommendation on the basis that when it comes to reserve matters, I'll reserve judgment for that point. Thank you.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up on some comments that were made by Councillor Richardson, although those comments are dated 2023. But I would just like, it's about the traffic volume and speed along Abbott Road. And conscious that there is a development on the other side of Abbott Road. So I suppose there's just he's put that he would like Notts County Council to have an investigation on how to improve the situation. I suppose I'm just making the point that there does need to be some monitoring of that traffic flow, and specifically when any new development occurs, because it will no doubt increase quite significantly. I guess that will come further down the line when we get to reserve matters. I'm just making a point that I think he's made a very good point, and I don't think we should diminish that. Won't affect my decision tonight, but I think that's something that will need to be kept an eye on. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. Something that will need to be kept an eye on as this development progresses. Thank you.
Chair, if I can just clarify. Appreciate that we have a number of developments going on this particular road, and they are running pretty concurrently with each other. The intention is from the county council that at the moment it's a 40-mile-an-hour speed road. That is intended to be dropped to 30, and that was a commitment that some considerable time ago. Having regard to the fact that it will be carrying a lot more residential traffic.
Any further questions? Councillor Answer.
Chairman, just to say that around that area, there's major developments happening on Avalon and opposite the entrance to here, where there's going to be another 400 homes. It's going to be absolutely saturated with new build, and making sure that the works vehicles that's going to go in there is going to be clearly off Abbott Road and into the development completely, because there is no space on there to leave anything. It is going to be 30 mile an hour all the way along there, right up to the Mar route. So yeah, it is going to be very, very busy there. I welcome the 10% of social housing. I think that is, affordable housing. I think that is imperative at the moment in time. We're all looking for more homes and more houses, and this is another big development in the area, and I'm sure that we'll have to monitor all of that traffic in that area, and I think that's clearly going to be the question that's going to be needed when it comes to reserved matters.
Any further comment? No one's indicating. Thank you. We move to a vote then by show of hands, please. All those in favour, please show. Any abstentions? Any against? No. Thank you. So that's carried unanimously. So planning application reference 2023-0271 outline planning permission, including access for residential development of up to 134 number dwellings, including demolition of number 223A Abbott Road, Mansfield. Land rear of 223A Abbott Road, Mansfield has been granted planning permission subject to conditions attached. Thank you. Now move on to agenda item 7, which is 2025-0182 full demolition of the existing bus depot and erection of a new garage, workshop, office building, new triage and washing facilities with a new EV charging facilities within the site. Bus depot, Sutton Road, Mansfield. I invite the officer to give the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Application before you is for the full redevelopment of the Stagecoach bus depot on Sutton Road. Officer recommendation as detailed in your report is to grant planning permission subject to a series of conditions. Before I go into any detail, Chair, I'd just like to run through a couple of committee updates. Firstly, the agent has highlighted a typo in the report with regard to the number of EV charging stations. For the clarity and for the record, the proposal includes 35 DC electrical charging stations that would provide a total of 70 charging bays. Secondly, the agent has written to clarify the proposed materials. The main depot building would consist of a brick outer wall with stone string courses, and the outbuildings such as the bus wash, etc., will be profile cladding with a brick plinth. Okay, so in terms of the site and its context, application site is the existing Mansfield bus depot, established transport facility located on the north side of Sutton Road. The site is situated within a predominantly commercial area. To the immediate west are the grounds of the Bold Forester Public House. To the east is the William Fourth Public House. Most sensitive nearby sectors are the residential properties located directly adjacent to the site to the north along Harrington Street. There are a row of two-storey terraced housing back onto the application site. The site is currently screened from these dwellings by a high brick wall. Just want to shift on to the pictures of the site. Back a bit. Yeah. Also involves the demolition of all buildings and the construction of a modern purpose-built facility. The primary driver for this major investment is to provide the necessary infrastructure to support Stagecoach transition from diesel to a fully electric bus fleet. In terms of what is proposed, the redevelopment would deliver a modern purpose-built facility with a total floor space of around 3,000 square metres. New building and infrastructure would comprise a new primary workshop building containing the garage, parts store, office ancillary rooms, staff welfare facilities. The building would be sited along the southern boundary of the site, as far as possible away from the existing residential properties to the north. New separate bus wash and triage building located on the east boundary of the site. Installation of extensive EV chargers would be provided across bus parking areas to include, as mentioned, DC charger stations and bays. Reconfigured layout will be in place to include the new internal road layout system, a dedicated staff car park located to the front of the site, adjacent to Sutton Road. To ensure bus services continue throughout the construction, the work would be carried out in 3 phases, involving the progressive demolition of old buildings and the construction of new facilities. The demolition process itself would be carefully managed, target recycling number of 95% of raw materials, including crushing and reusing hardcore on site to minimise waste and lorry movements. Environmental controls for dust and noise would also be in place throughout the construction period and demolition period. There has been no public objection at all in relation to the proposed development. In relation to assessment of the key planning issues, the principle of modernising this key employment facility, strongly supported by local and national planning policies, Council's regeneration team has expressed a strong support for the investment and the move towards sustainable transport. Main considerations therefore relate to the potential impact on the surrounding area. In terms of the impact on residential amenity, the applicant has demonstrated through technical assessments that the proposed development would not cause undue harm. The noise impact assessment confirms that the relocation of the workshop, combined with other mitigations such as special reversing alarms, means that the operational noise would be within acceptable limits, clearly a lot less as at present. And the Environmental Health Team has reviewed this submission and raised no objections subject to conditions. Similarly, a lighting assessment has showed that light spill would be controlled within the application site to protect neighbours, and the air quality assessment identifies a long-term benefit for residents through the move to zero emissions fleet. In terms of highways, the transportation assessment submitted with the application confirms that the redevelopment is not intended to increase staff or bus numbers, and it would generate no additional traffic. Highway Authority has reviewed this and had no objection subject to condition to manage the construction phase. In terms of ecology, the site is of low value. A new landscaping scheme has been submitted, which includes the installation and planting of 18 new trees that would deliver a biodiversity gain of over 12%, exceeding the statutory requirements. Our ecologists and tree officers are satisfied with this approach. Finally, the site is in flood zone 1, the lowest risk, but Environment Agency and local flood authority have no objections to the drainage and ground remediation proposals subject to conditions outlined in the report. In conclusion, members, this proposal represents a significant investment in essential public transport infrastructure for Mansfield. Chair, it supports the transition to a cleaner, quieter and more sustainable bus network, which brings considerable environmental benefits. Development has been carefully designed to mitigate its impact on the surrounding area, particularly in the adjacent residential properties to the north. All technical matters have been scrutinised by statutory consultees, raised no objection. The proposal is considered to be a sustainable form of development that complies with the policies of the Mansfield District Local Plan and NPPF. Chair, the officer recommendations therefore to grant planning permission subject to the conditions listed in your. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. We do have a public speaker on the item, so I would like to invite Matt Kroll, applicant, to the podium. If you'd like to get yourself set, Matt, when you're ready, just press the on off. And you've got 4 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Evening, Chair and Committee. Evening, Chair and Committee members. Today we're asking you to support a transformative investment in Mansfield transport infrastructure, pushing the town and district at the leading edge of new bus technology across the UK. We're planning to upgrade a vital piece of public transport infrastructure that serves Mansfield and the surrounding villages every single day, carrying 6.2 million passengers each year. Our Sutton Road depot has been in situ since 1905 and was originally used as a tram depot before being replaced with buses in 1930. And a Stagecoach has been the custodian of the site since 1990, that now employs over 250 locally based staff. Recently, Stagecoach has been successful in securing 5.6 million from Zebra Central Government funding, complemented by Stagecoach's investment of 27.6 million to replace 65 buses with electrical vehicles and the required infrastructure. Further bids are yet to be finalised, but are set to replace a further 15 buses with electric vehicles, so that would equate to 94% of the fleet being new EVs. Our successful bids led us to review our existing depot site that can be best described as outdated. The buildings are ageing and critically, it is currently unable to support the transition of our bus fleet to zero-emission electric vehicles. We're therefore proposing a modern, coherent and functional solution and thoughtful landscaping that will transform the Sutton Road frontage. The total investment from Stagecoach to deliver this site is currently estimated to be 6.8 million. Therefore, let me outline by focusing on 3 areas: environmental benefits, community impact and economic value. Environment. This redevelopment enables the transition of 65 fully electric buses in the next 12 months. That means zero on-site vehicle emissions, delivering cleaner air and quieter streets for nearby residents and the wider community. We're also delivering a 12.4% biodiversity net gain, exceeding statutory requirements. That includes new native trees and hedgerows along Sutton Road and enhanced green infrastructure that will transform the streetscape. Solar panels were situated within the build to generate a proportion of the required power for the site. Sustainability runs through the entire project. We'll recycle 95% of demolition materials, crushing brick, concrete to reuse in construction. Additionally, our drainage system uses sustainable systems with attenuation process, which prevents any increase in flood risk, and the ground conditions have been thoroughly investigated with the appropriate remediation measures in place. Protecting residential amenity. We've designed them with neighbours in mind from day one. The Wayne Workshop is positioned on the southern boundary, maximising distance from homes on Harrington Street. We're installing acoustic fencing and using modern white noise reversing alarms instead of traditional beepers to reduce intrusive sound. Our lighting uses cut-off LEDs that direct light downward, not into windows. And the independent noise impact assessment also confirms that adverse impacts are unlikely. And thirdly, jobs and economic investment. This application safeguards local employment and represents a significant private investment in Mansfield. These are local skilled jobs that will remain in our community, creating future opportunities for young people. Providing high quality facilities for existing staff will help assist employee retention whilst attracting new applicants in the future. And our new depot will house high quality training facilities that can be used by local training teams, but also potentially utilised by third parties such as local colleges. The realignment of our site enables to increase the number of vehicles by 12.5% in the future, while supporting a further 25 jobs. This will enable further growth as we aim to enhance our service frequencies over time. The transport assessment confirms this operationally neutrally. The Highway Authority removed their objection after reviewing the evidence. We believe this proposal aligns with your local plan. It supports employment, sustainable transport, improves air quality and biodiversity. This is also achieved whilst respecting the amenity of local residents. Every technical consultancy either supports this or has no objection, subject to conditions. In combination with the central government funding, a total of 39 million is scheduled to be invested in this significant investment in Mansfield's future, one that delivers real benefits for our community and our environment. I urge you therefore to grant the permission. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Do members have any questions? Councillor Cox said.
Is it Mr. Sims?
It's Mr. Cranwell,
Who are you?
the MD of Stagecoach Lisbon.
Okay, I don't know, it's more of an observation and a point really that a few years ago I was associated with another authority, small bus organisation that they do in the community, and they used to park the odd one up in the old that depot. And I have to say that my views when I was up there, it took me back to the programme of On the Buses. I mean, the building was absolutely, and this has been a long time, coming. It's here, and I mean, I'll be fully supportive. This is absolutely fantastic, and it's what we need, definitely.
Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify my understanding from the officer's report. My question was, where do the buses go when this work's ongoing? But if I've understood rightly, it will be built around, phased around them, so the buses will still be stored on site. Is that correct?
So as we've gone through the designing process, we've established that to do the build as efficiently as possible, it's better to find an alternative site in the interim whilst the works are being done. So rather than having a protracted, potentially 18-month programme, trying to reduce it down to 12 months. So concurrently with the design work and the planning application, we have been looking for alternative sites. So we'll be housing the vehicles between the bus station and an alternative site so that those works could go through in a safe manner, but we'll still be able to do the cleaning and the fueling of the vehicles on site whilst the works are going on.
Okay, so there'll be an alternative provision for some of the buses, but some will still be on site during the work.
Yeah, it's just to allow us to complete the work safely and try and expedite the actual build.
Thank you.
Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. Forgive me, this is more of an inquisitive question than necessarily one that's going to impact my decision. I was just wondering, given the significant increase of EV over diesel here, do you have any sort of figures in regards to the decrease in emissions and therefore the benefit on the local community?
Well, it's compared to a diesel vehicle, obviously it's zero emission at pipe. Compared to what we have with the diesel, we're currently using a proportion of Euro 6 diesels at Mansfield. The fleet ranges between Euro 4 right up to Euro 6. So there'll be a significant step change. I haven't got the number to hand, I'm afraid, in terms of the net impact between the diesel fleet that we've got at the moment, because it's quite a mix compared to fully electric, but it's a substantial change, obviously, in the environment.
Councillor Ellis.
Can I just, looking at the plan, I presume that by the trees and those parking slots, is that staff car parking?
That's correct, yes.
So the idea would be that you'd get less impact on Sutton Road with staff parking and they'd actually park on site.
Yes, that's correct. So currently, yes, some of our staff are having to park on Sutton Road. So with the parking provision that we put in place, the majority of drivers that are coming in to start running the first vehicles, because our vehicles will be going out from 4 o'clock in the morning as they do now. Therefore, by having greater amounts of parking in the depot, we can then accommodate those people. And as the vehicles go out into service, we'll have greater capacity for people to park during the day within the site. So it does help resolve that matter.
Anyone else with a question? No? Thank you very much. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for your presentation. Members have any questions of the officer? No? I have a proposer for the Councillor Cox said and Councillor Hammersley second. Anyone wishing to make a comment? I'd like to welcome the investment into Mansfield and at the forefront of new cleaner technology. Great. Got to go to the vote then, please, by show of hands. All those in favour, please show. Any abstentions? Any against? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. So planning application reference 2023-0271. No, it's the wrong one. Planning application 2025-0182. Full demolition of the existing bus depot and erection of the new garage, workshops, office building, new triage and washing facilities, and new EV charging facilities within the site. Bus depot, Sutton Road, Mansfield, has been granted planning permission with conditions. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 8, which is planning application reference 2025-0260. Full erection of a 2-storey building to create 4-number self-contained flats, including associated parking facilities and landscaping. Land adjacent to 70 Barringer Road, Mansfield. I invite the officer to make the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So there's no update for this item, but I think just for context, so this application follows a committee item which was presented to committee in February 2024, and it was more or less it was on the same site, more or less the same footprint. That was for 2 retail units and 2 first floor flats, whereas this scheme, by contrast, is solely residential, but it does occupy a similar footprint. Just broadly in terms of the location, the site's located on Barringer Road, which is located northeast of Mansfield Town Centre. The triangular shaped parcel of land is approximately 500 square metres, so 0.05 hectares. The proposal before the committee tonight, as I said, it's solely residential, so it's a 2-storey building comprising 4 self-contained flats. There would be approximately 6 parking spaces on site landscaping, and electric vehicle charging points to be secured by condition. The reason for the referral was 5 objections, which is notable, but it's lower than the previous scheme received 8 objections, so it's a net reduction of 3 objections for more or less the same scheme. The concerns primarily sort of ranged on, so it's mentioned environmental impacts, because there's an adjacent nature reserve. We've not had any ecological objection to that. There was concerns about impacts on residential amenity, impact on new residents from existing businesses, highway impact, lack of housing need, type of property tenure, and not in keeping with the character and appearance of the area. I'll kind of touch on these as I go through the slides. So if we just move on. So this slide just sort of provides a broad site layout, so it gives you a sense as to both the footprint of the building and also the type of sort of floor plan layout. So the building would accommodate 4-number flats, 4 times 2 bedroom flats. There would be 6 on-site parking spaces provided, 4 on-site cycle storage spaces, although I have noted there's probably space to increase that if necessary. There's been no technical consultee objections. Highway is just referred to the standing advice, so it's sort of standard access design, which would then need to be approved at a later date. If we go next slide. So this just shows a sort of a broad sort of layout as to the appearance of the building. So it's relatively standard material specification. So red brick, Pantoil or concrete, antique red roof tiles, and grey UPVC rainwater goods and UPVC windows. There is a condition recommended because there was some ambiguity as to the exact finish of the windows, so that's proposed to be conditioned, and it's more or less the same on the rear elevation. The just a comment on so one of the concerns raised by residents was to do with the impact on overlooking from first floor flat windows. This is a relationship that's already established both by existing first floor flats on the existing building and first floor flats that that were previously granted on site, which could still be implemented till February 2027. The applicant, however, has proposed, so if you on the first floor, the slightly darker shading is the bottom half of each of the windows would be obscurely glazed, and that's recommended to be conditioned to Pilkington level 4. That it wouldn't completely eliminate overlooking, but it would substantially reduce it. So it would mean that overlooking into neighbouring gardens is from the first floor windows would be very difficult to achieve unless a resident was standing outside to sort of directly out the window, which would be broadly the case for a normal end-to-end relationship. So there wasn't officers didn't consider that relationship to be unacceptable, having noting the principle of such a type of buildings already been established. So this plan, there are some other plans on later slides. Just I think there's been just to prevent confusion. This is the most this street scene plan is the most up to date and the most accurate relationship that just shows what the row. So the building, the sort of the hashed out building on the left is the existing building, which is two sort of commercial buildings on the ground floor. One is a commercial convenience store, and the other one's a Chinese takeaway. The two so there's two first floor flats above the shops. So this would kind of fit sort of alongside that. It's modestly taller, 9.5 meters at ridge. That's taller than the existing building by about half a meter, slightly taller than the previous scheme, but the roof pattern, broadly speaking, follows that of the dwelling, sort of where the topography kind of rises sort of gradually as you go sort of, I think it's south towards the town centre, so there's a gentle rise in topography. So the design relationship was considered to be acceptable. Obviously, it's a flat tenure, but I think national policy is broadly supportive of bringing forward different types of housing, not just sort of the standard single-family homes. Materials are broadly consistent with what's proposed, and it would be, broadly speaking, is another street scene plan again. So, broadly speaking, I consider this to be accurate, although I'm not clear if this is the scale 1 to 40. So again, broadly speaking, it would follow the line of the existing development patterns. Obviously, it doesn't show trees on site. I think this looks slightly more condensed to the previous one in the block plan and more accurate visually. If we go next slide. Again, this is a slightly older plan, but it doesn't reflect the scale as accurate. It looks more sort of it's a more intimate relationship, but it does give you an indication as to how the buildings would look next to each other. I think again, if members want, we can go back to the block plan later as needed. The next slide, again, this just broadly shows what the living relationship would look like. They're all 2-bedroom flats. So broadly speaking, space standard compliant. The bottom of the slide, so the size of the flats internally range from 67 to 87 square meters, so all broadly in line to some degree with national space standards. There's no obviously concerns at that level. The ground floor flat didn't raise any sort of overlooking concerns at all. Slide. So there's just some on-site photos. So just shows the existing boundary treatment. So it's just for context, the height of this is approximately 1.8 to 2 meters. So there's a mature boundary treatment. This is looking south again towards Barringer Road. So this is the existing car park to the rear of the existing flats. You can see on the right of the screen. So there is already a spatial relationship established. It would bring the built footprint across, but as I've said before, it's a footprint that's more or less been broadly granted already, and it wouldn't introduce a relationship visually. It's about 20 meters between end-to-end between existing and proposed. The proposed building and the existing dwellings on Bragg Bank. So broadly speaking, wasn't considered by officers to be unacceptable. Just by way of clarity, the broad assessment in the proposal is that the impact of this would be an improvement. When I was on site, so the previous scheme, which was granted by committee, had 2 ground floor retail units. The impact of this in terms of traffic, noise, all kind of the environmental nuisance we consider to be lower than what was previously granted, whilst delivering 4 market units. There's a 12% net gain or 10% net gain on site, which is conditioned, and there's conditions to in the committee report to control various aspects of highways, visuals, and biodiversity. So the recommendation before the committee is to approve. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Dan. We have got a speaker on this item. So I'd like to invite Karam Shah to the podium is the agent and architect. Like to turn your machine on so the red light's on. You've got 4 minutes, Graham.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Khurram and I'm the architect for this application. And as you would expect, I'm in support of the application. The design team that works with me, we work positively and proactively with the case officer to refine this proposal and secure an acceptable form of development. And I thank the case officer for his support throughout the application. The proposal is seeking to reuse a vacant parcel of land within the Mansfield urban area. This aligns perfectly with the local plan, which encourages urban regeneration. The principle of developing this site has already been established by the previous planning permission, which was for a mixed-use scheme. Regarding the design, we acknowledge the proposal is contemporary. However, the design team has worked diligently to ensure the massing and scale are appropriate for this urban setting. Therefore, the overall dimension respects the established building line and crucially adds to visual interest and ensures the building successfully integrates with the existing street scene without being dominant. The proposal also includes a material betterment, substantial new soft landscaping along the frontage. This not only improves the visual setting, but also delivers a guaranteed 10% biodiversity net gain on site. We've also carefully considered the neighbors' objections and comments regarding overlooking, overshadowing, and overdevelopment. During the design process, we made sure the separation distance were adhered to, and the nearest property to the site is approximately 20 meters away. And to further safeguard privacy, we've also included obscure glazing on the first floor rear windows below 1.5 meter. In regards to highways were satisfied with the proposal and there were no objections and they were happy with the 6 parking spaces to be acceptable for the flats. And as per the previous scheme, the proposal is likely to generate lower level of traffic than the 2 additional retail units that were approved. In summary, the officer assessment finds that subject to recommended conditions, the site proposal address design, good design, and specific address design detail, drainage, privacy, and construction. The proposal is in accordance with the local plan and national policy framework. We would respectfully therefore request the committee vote in favor of the application. Thank you.
Do members have any questions, Speaker? No one's indicated. Thank you. You see? Do members have any questions of the officer? No one's indicated. I have a proposer for the Councillor Swinscoe. Seconder. Councillor Ellis. Anyone wish to say anything in debate? No. Can I have a vote by show of hands then, please? All those in favour, please show. Any abstentions? Any against? No. Thank you. So, with that, planning application reference 2025-0260 full erection of a 2-storey building to create 4 number self-contained flats, including associated parking facilities and landscaping. Land adjacent to 70 Barringer Road, Mansfield, has been granted planning permission subject to conditions. Thank you. Move on to agenda item 9, which is the planning appeal decisions, 19th of August to the 7th of October. There were delegated decisions where the appeals were dismissed by the inspector. Can I have a show of hands to note those? It's unanimous, thank you. And finally, item 10, dependencies to human rights. Again, could I have a show of hands to say that they've been noted? It's unanimous, thank you. That concludes tonight's meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance and have a safe journey home.